for the rest of his administration. We want to thank him for the time he spent with us in Parliament. I am particularly inspired in what I'm going to say by the very first line of his speech. His Excellency says, and I quote, "For this 60th anniversary of our nation's independence, I propose that we redesign the pathway of our endeavor to build a Sierra Leone that works for all of us." Unquote. Indeed, it is 60 years. I recall very clearly my first debate here on a presidential address in response to a question, a rhetorical question, that was asked by Honorable Timbo at that time, who is no longer here. I said, in responding to his question as we were rounding up, that yes, sometimes our nation, Sierra Leone, we run very fast. After 5-10 years, we find out that we're still in the same position. Because whatever we do in governance, whatever government it is, expenditures done, allocations made, policies done, ultimately, the measurement is going to be, did it change the people's lives? Did it create wealth? Did all those interventions create jobs and improve the well-being of our citizens? Our country is very underdeveloped. It lacks so many things and so many critical institutions. This is why I suspect, if I go back to the president's speech, he's asking us to redesign pathways. He's been there now almost 3.5 years. He says we should redesign. But there's something else he said that struck me. In para 4, second line, he says, and I quote, "We cannot forever be blinded by cosmetic and short-term infrastructure and other tokens," unquote. This is why it is incumbent on us lawmakers to help our people understand that governance is continuity. No one government can completely transform the infrastructure here in this nation without foundations laid by others. No one government can transform this country. Again, to go back to the president, no one government can transform this country without token cosmetic changes, without accumulation of efforts. And indeed, development is a cumulative process, an incremental process. I give a simple example. The Kenema-Kailahun Highway was heavily negotiated by His Excellency President Ahmed Tijan's government. Negotiated, almost finished. When they negotiated also with the OPEC fund, when His Excellency Anes Bai Koroma took power, I invited him to Vienna. I pushed the OPEC fund to approve that project quickly. It is his first infrastructure project he signed. 6 to 8 weeks after he came in, Kenema-Kailahun Highway. What am I trying to establish? That could not have happened if His Excellency Tijan Kaba's administration had not laid the foundation for feasibility studies, for negotiating. And yes, President Kaba also left blueprints for infrastructure. And indeed, to the credit of His Excellency Anes Bai Koroma, he endeavored to execute a lot of them. It is in the same spirit. It is in the same spirit. We would applaud His Excellency President Maada Bio if at the moment now he is also accelerating the investment and implementation of infrastructure projects that were started and designed by the administration of His Excellency Anes Bai Koroma. Development is difficult. Infrastructure development takes time. From conception to feasibility study, environmental impact assessment, until you do financial engineering, the incubation period sometimes is 5 to 10 years. So you cannot come out and throw away everything. It is incumbent on us, lawmakers, we the lawmakers, to avoid sloganeering, propaganda. We need to educate our people that for real transformation, you need continuity of governance and accumulation. Indeed, some of us earned a PhD in development economics. So we have to educate. We take this as a teachable moment. With that establishment and taking from what His Excellency the President said, and I quote, he says in the first line, I quote, "I propose that we redesign the pathway of our endeavor to build Sierra Leone that works for all of us," unquote. With that, some of my critique now is not to obstruct, is not to condemn. It is to say to His Excellency and his team, indeed, it is time, if we're going to redesign, that we assess as well. Where are we? Where are we headed? What are the things that are left? Not all of us can praise sing. Some of us must critique. So I choose economic policy. In the spirit, I underline, in the spirit of redesigning the pathway which he called for in line 1. So here are some pointers as we redesign for the government. I take the economy. It is true that we're borrowing a lot. I talked to somebody in finance. I said, we in Parliament have asked you to come to the Parliament, document for us how much loans and how much grants you've received, so that we know where these resources are deployed, are going to be deployed, so that we can check. Because when you borrow, you must pay. When you borrow, you must pay. If you borrow too much, your debt burden will cannibalize resources from capital investments and capacity building in the country. Our debt burden is high. Honorable Abdul Kagbo, Honorable Tawa, Conte have all elaborated on the numbers. We can all go and check finance, but we can also go and check the IMF. The debt burden is high. We're borrowing a lot still. We see increase in prices of basic foods. At the end of the day, yes, Honorable Tawa, you are correct. There is significant growth. But there is also a phenomenon in development called growth without development. You are growing fast, but you are not creating jobs. You are growing fast, but your basic social services are crumbling. In this country, before and now, it is in this country that we still have high maternal mortality rate. It is still in this country that people can die in hospital because there is no clean water, or the hospital is not clean, or the oxygen doesn't work. I give you an example. My friend is visiting from the UN, a Sierra Leonean, a top statistician in the UN, 25 years. He came to visit me yesterday. He said, I can't stay with you long because we're running around to arrange a funeral for one of our colleagues who came 2 weeks ago and has died. He said, we are so much in shock because they were going from hospital to find oxygen. So when we are all here, our responsibility to help this government is to help the government understand, and everybody understand, that there are fundamental structural problems in this country that cannot be fixed by tokenism. Our first advice to the government, we really appreciate that it is talk and do. We appreciate it. But what we need today is talk, do, and review. We greatly appreciate Thank you for your rejoinder, Honorable Speaker. You said maybe for capacity reasons. Let me remind you, Honorable Speaker, that yes, we are approaching critical capacity limit in 34. I had two relatives there admitted 2 weeks ago. What am I saying? It is not for sloganeering. I am saying we need to assess. I can give you the name. I gave you a specific case of an individual who died because they went to 2 hospitals here in this country, they couldn't get oxygen. I am not saying oxygen is not available everywhere. You can clarify what you want. I am telling you what I know. So on the economy, we have also been rated on the economy. So in the interest of our very able and competent clerks, please note, I didn't say that you were not good stenographers. I didn't say that. Let me move on quickly. Why am I talking about structural problems in the country that, again, the president is right, cannot be fixed by cosmetic tokenism? This is the country where the FAO and WFP are warning us again, as they've done over the years, that we are one of the most hungry countries in the world. This is not only by them. This is the same survey that was done by the IGR last year. The citizens said in the IGR survey, Afrobarometer survey, that the #1 problem identified by the citizens of Sierra Leone last year was hunger. So what am I saying? We have structural issues. Therefore, it is incumbent on us to work with government to make sure we improve the lives of everybody. And Honorable Kaisamba, you are right. Obama is correct. Nobody should wish for their government to fail, because it will affect all of us. And it is exactly that is why we in NGC, we've always said constructive opposition. We praise when we should. We also critique when we do. So my first admonition to government, talk and do, but also for now, do and review, do and assess. Where are we going? So I move to free education. Please, I said it 6 months ago. I say it again. I advise the government, please do an in-depth, thorough review of free education. How are we going? Are we going the right direction? Where should we put emphasis? Enrollment, more people in a classroom is wonderful. But if the quality does not work, it will be a problem. And it will be a generational problem. We advise, please review. Agriculture, we again commend the government's effort. A lot of work going on in agriculture. We welcome the rice value chain program that is being rolled out. Again, in the interest of redesign, in Cambia right now, all the tractors we were promised for certain locations have not arrived. Plowing was late. And again, I encourage the government, please take a close look at the fertilizer voucher system. There could be a lot of problems with that, and I'll be willing to engage with them to give them good example. Mining. I want to commend Honorable Emerson Lamin for his eloquent expose on the mining sector. Wow. When he spoke, I was just dreaming now that we'll be earning billions of dollars from the mining sector. And that suddenly, Kono will now become the new shining city on the hill. I welcome all what you said, and I agree with you. I agree with you that indeed, yeah. My honorable colleague, I deeply apologize. I stick to parliamentary protocol. The honorable member from Kono. I liked what you said. I was excited, and I'm really dreaming that very soon Kono will be the shining city on the hill. But I must say, I repeat what I requested the Honorable Speaker 2 weeks ago. We need a whole day session on the mining sector. We need a whole day. This is not about sloganeering. We all know that for decades, our country has not benefited from its minerals. Yes, we have 3 new policies. Is the implementation working right?
I expect much from
We are getting reports of illegal mining all over this country. Sites that we didn't know before. We need to know more. We have called for in this parliament, I personally, for a presentation on the geomagnetic survey. We want to know. We heard the announcement that there is diamonds, there is more diamonds, there is oil and gas. We want to know. We, the people's representative, we need a whole day on mining. It is important. If we cannot manage that natural capital, and agriculture, we will be in trouble. I move on quickly. I move on to environment, fisheries, and forestry. Mr. Speaker, in the interest of this country, several of us, including the incumbent, Honorable Speaker, His Excellency Cherno Bundu, we have insisted that we pay attention to environmental degradation. It is happening even more than we think. Less than 5% of forest cover left. I was in Kabbalah over the weekend. Before that, I was in Karine district, in my mother's homeland. Our trees are disappearing. I have videos I also have, and I commend Honorable Tawa. He took time to bring those issues to the Environmental Committee. We have said we have to be careful. And for that, I transition. I would advise the government. Again, these are all advice proposals. It is not badat. It is for real. Because the president says we redesign. We commend the president for getting $55 million from our good friends in China. It is a grant. We even applaud him for the grant. Wonderful. It is a gift. When you receive a gift, you decide how you will eat it, when you will eat it, and where you will eat it. We implore the government, please explore another site for the fish harbor. Please. Why? No country.
Wow.
Honorable from Kono said he's traveled. Honorable, I have been to about 80 countries. I have had meetings organized for me in major resorts around the world. Yeah, whether it's in southern France or in Bali in Indonesia or Cancun. What am I saying? One of our richest areas, and the president mentioned it in his maiden speech, is tourism. You cannot place an industrial investment in your best tourism location. It makes no sense. It is a gift. You say to your friends, thank you very much. We give you 15 more sites. But this one, we are reserving for a first-class tourism location. So we admonish the government, please. So finally, I move. Thank you for your admonition, Honorable Speaker. As you know, parliamentary practice around the world, you can speak in parliament, you can speak ahead of a policy. You don't have to wait to have policy documents. You can speak ahead of a policy to make your position known. Our position is in all the sites that will be considered for this wonderful grant, in all the sites that will be considered by our government, based on the grant that has been given, we are making a case that for all the sites considered, we pray that Black Johnson is not included. And we have given the government an alternative investment strategy that will yield continuous income, which is building a first-class tourism village. With that, I go now to my final segment on governance. My final segment on governance, it will lay the emphasis. I did not, again, I ask him to listen well. I did not talk about a bill coming to Parliament. I talked about environmental issues. I am not anticipating any bill. You are